coming at you from not my house. I'm at Dougie and Sarah's house, and I'm taking care of Luna, and she's looking at me like I'm crazy. But we're doing this anyway. So happy Sunday, and happy 1 week till we get to see you again in person. If you haven't already heard, super exciting announcement. We are starting back next Sunday, September 27th. We cannot wait to see you guys there. We'll see you at 9:30 and 11. Be sure you note those new service times. Middle school and high school at 9:30 and middle school at 11. Guys, we are so excited. We cannot wait. So let's do our last, hopefully forever, video only chat. If you're wondering about next week, if you're not going to be able to come, we'll still record our talks, but they'll be live talks, so you'll get to see what we talked about in church on Sunday morning, and then you can watch it later on. We'll post it on Sunday afternoon. So this is it, our last one that is only on Instagram or YouTube. So quick recap, just to remind you, we are talking about Philippians 4:8. We're going along with what Dr. Haney is talking to the entire congregation about. And so as you're listening to these talks, as you're listening in person next week, you can talk to your parents because y'all are talking about the same thing. So let's review. Mitch talked to us last week, and he gave us a little bit of background on Philippians and kind of who Paul was writing to and why. And so Philippi was a Roman colony, and Paul was writing to them to encourage them in a time of persecution. And although we're not really going through persecution right now, it sort of feels like we're in a time that's just really hard. And so this can relate to us a lot. And if you listen to Dr. Haney's sermon, or if your parents did and y'all talked about it, you'll know that Dr. Haney talked about Philippians 4:8, in that Paul is trying to teach us how to think, not just what to think, but how to think. In this world, with social media and news just at your fingertips, there are a lot of people telling us what to think, right? And there's a lot, this is the information age. There's a lot of information coming at you at all times. And so it's hard to know and take in everything. And sometimes we just don't know. And that's a scary thing for us. A lot of times we don't want to admit that we don't know the answer or we don't know what's going on. But that's kind of where we're at right now because there's just so much information. And this reminds me of when I was younger, when I was y'all's age, and I'd be doing homework and I wouldn't know the answer and I would not know how to get there. And I'd ask my dad for help, mostly in math. And I would say, Dad, can you please just give me the answer? And he would say, no, I'll help you figure out the answer. And I'm like, that's going to take so much time. He's going to explain the why and the how. And I just want to know what the answer is. But just knowing an answer, just somebody telling me something isn't actually going to help me in the long run. And I actually am glad, even though I hated it at the time, I'm glad my dad didn't just give me the answers. He didn't just tell me what to think. He taught me how to think and how to solve problems. And so that's a little bit of what Paul is doing here in Philippians 4:8. And so last week, Mitch talked about truth. Philippians 4:8 says, finally, dear brothers and sisters, whatever is true, that's what it starts with, whatever is true. And so as we talk about what is true, we look at truth. And so Mitch kind of went through what it looks like to think about the truth. And so the rest of the verse goes like this. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there is anything that is of excellence or praiseworthy, think about these things. And so we're going to talk about each of these. And today we're going to talk about whatever is noble. And noble is kind of a weird word. So when we think about what is noble, I was kind of looking at different translations to see what else does it say. Does it just say noble? Well, in different translations it says honorable, it says respectable, and even says honest. And so as we're looking at this, I want to think about all those different words, right? Because they all have a similar meaning. But the Greek word that Paul uses is the word symnos. And so when Paul uses it, and he uses it not just here in Philippians, but in Timothy and in Titus, he uses it to talk about older, wiser, godly people. And so when we think about these words, noble, respectable, honorable, honest, what do you think of? Who do you think of? For me, when I think of noble, I think of royalty. If you don't know me, I am obsessed with the British royal family. I think that Queen Elizabeth is just one of the coolest people ever to live. And I love Kate Middleton and Prince William and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and all those people. But I just think of royalty, right? Nobility, right? They were very respectable people. But that's not necessarily what this is talking about. This isn't talking about royalty, but what makes someone honorable? What makes someone noble? You don't have to be royalty to be noble in this day and age. So what is it that makes somebody noble? And for me, I think it's how they act. I think someone is noble or honorable or respectable because they are kind, because they serve other people, because they do the right thing. I think it is in the way they act. Can you think of people in your life that act like that are kind, that serve others, that do the right thing even when it's hard? Can you think of not just people, but things that are noble? When I think of these things, the perfect example, as usual, is Jesus. When you look at this list that Philippians 4:8 goes through, it describes Jesus. Jesus is true, right? Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life in John 14. He is true. Jesus is noble, right? He served others. He was the epitome of kindness, right? He did the right thing always. He was sinless, okay? Right? Noble describes who Jesus is. Honorable, respectable. You can absolutely respect who Jesus was. And so when you look at this list, it describes Jesus. It describes who Jesus is, and it describes a Christ-like mindset. And so when Paul tells us to think about these things, it's not just like, okay, I'll think about the truth. I'll think about being honorable, right? When he says think, he means focus, meditate on, reflect on what these things are. And when you do that, hopefully as you're meditating and reflecting and thinking on these things and people that are like that and things that are like that those thoughts would not just be thoughts, but they would turn into actions. That because we are thinking in this way, we turn that into action. We act this way as well. We act nobly. We act honorably. We act respectably. So how this week can you take this word noble, or maybe you take it as honorable or respectable, or even honest? How can you take that and act that way towards others? Can you look for that in others? Can you see that and think about that and see the way your mindset changes to become a little bit more like Jesus? I pray that you would try that this week. We cannot wait to see you guys next week. Oh my gosh, we are so excited. If you have any questions about next week, please feel free to text us or DM us on Instagram. We're just so excited. We can't wait to see you. Have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday.